allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The call to order is 6:30. I want to thank you all for coming. This is a time that we normally ask for opinions and concerns from the audience. For those of you who have not been here before, our procedures are you have a half hour of time for the audience to speak. Normally we ask people to keep their comments to approximately 5 minutes at most. What we would like to do, since I understand many of you here tonight wish to talk about the early dismissal at our elementary school, I'm going to ask Mr. Hebert to just reiterate what the board is proposing to do so that everyone knows and understands what we are trying to do, what the times will be, and how everyone is affected. And then from there, you'll have a half hour for comments. It is not a debate. It is it's not a question and answer session. It's comments from the audience, and we'll get started. Thank you.
Since the month of November, we have been looking at an RTI program, which is response to intervention. We had a board presentation. I think maybe some of you were here for that presentation. And we took a look at forming a committee to work on trying to develop a response to intervention program within our own school. I did send home a letter, and I'm glad I did, and was with the understanding that we would have ample time to look at various impacts that would occur with the recommendation that we're faced with now. In order to have an effective response to intervention team, you need to have common planning time. But before I do that, I just want to comment a little bit on what response to intervention will do and what it is. Response to intervention is going to give us an opportunity to work with our kindergartners, our first graders, and our second graders with intensive educational concentration on the difficulties that they may have. So with that, by the time they reach second grade, we should have eliminated most of the students that are being currently classified. We have also looked at having all the students who are in first grade or currently in kindergarten that will be in first grade, those that are in first grade, they'll be in second grade, looking at a consultant model so that they will be receiving services through this response to intervention. We currently have approximately 18% of classified students in this district. It's too high. We need to look at how can we make a difference so that we can lower and reduce that amount of classification. So, the response to intervention is something that is mandated and something that we need to put into place. We need to take a look at providing the assistance at the level where it has the most impact. Well, in order to do that, we had to look at a different time schedule. We had to look at staggered times. Other school districts, Plattsburgh, Beekmantown, Peru, they all have these staggered times. Saranac, because they need to provide that. Now we look at the current starting time right now for our students is around 8:15. However, one of the other problems that we have been dealing with for years is the concentrated bus room that occurs in the morning. And that is when the students come to Moore's at approximately 7:50, they go into a cafeteria until 8:15. When they go to Rouse's Point around 7:45, 7:50, they go into a cafeteria and they sit there until 8:15. This has been a concern in this district and a problem that we have been trying to eliminate. Now, 2 years ago, we were able to, with the shift in working with the Teachers Association, to eliminate the bus room in the afternoon, which I think has been a benefit for all our students. Well, what we're looking at now is trying to do the same thing. There are several concerns that I've been hearing since I've come to this district. One, we don't like the high school students with the elementary schools for various reasons. The second thing, last year to put common planning time in, we put in one afternoon a month to allow our elementary teachers to have some common planning time. That was not a popular issue because parents then had to get supervision because the older students were still in school. And the other thing that we tried to eliminate is the wait time on the buses and the shuttle buses that these poor elementary kids have to sit on and go to Moore's. This year we had some difficulties where we had to get the high school kids off the buses because they were all traveling together. So what we looked at was doing separate busing for the elementary and the middle high school. The start time for the elementary would be 8:45. The current time is now 8:15. The reason for the 8:45 is that the teachers arrive at 8:15 and they work until 3:15. So from 8:15 until 8:45 they would have their half hour of common planning time. And with an intensive program like the RTI, where you have an AIS teacher, you have a resource room teacher, and you have a classroom teacher working together, they must have time to collaborate. I know a lot of people said, well, they can do it before and they can do it after work or whatever. But you understand that at 8:15 they walk down to that cafeteria and they pick up your children. At 3:15 they walk those children out to the bus, so they're not out in the bus room. There is no contractual collaboration time. That's why we put that time in. This program would, if we were to stay with the 8:45, would eliminate that bus room in the morning, because the children would be arriving around 8:40. At 8:40 they would have an opportunity to either go to the cafeteria for their breakfast if they needed breakfast, or they would walk into the classroom and be greeted by their teacher and the other students, instead of having to go to a crowded bus room for 35 minutes. That was one of the reasons we put it in the morning. The other thing that it would do, it would eliminate the shuttle buses and the wait time on the buses. It would also eliminate that once a month elementary dismissal for common planning time. And it would eliminate what many people have always wanted, the elementary riding with the high school students. Excuse me. I know other questions are out there and they're saying, well, you're going to have double busing. No, it's not double busing. It's separate busing. And I'll explain that to you. Currently, we have 30 runs plus our BOCES runs. With this new busing, there would be 10 buses in Moore's Elementary, there would be 5 buses in Rouse's Point Elementary, and there would be 17 buses at the middle high school, which means 32 bus runs versus 30. And we were looking at adding another one in Rouse's Point for next year anyway. I talked to Mr. Miner this afternoon. So, we're only looking at a difference of approximately 1 bus run. We're looking at a possibility of separating our high school and our elementary students. We're looking at a possibility of taking away that 25, 35 minutes where they have to sit in a crowded cafeteria with their coats and their boots on and then get up and go to their classroom and have a day of instruction. Now, I understand that this is causing an impact. And I understand that change is hard. Here's what I have been doing. I've called Sister Cordata. I'm looking at seeing if there's a possibility where students could be dropped off there. I've contacted Noel Stewart, who writes grants for CVES, and asked him if there's any grant money like Saranac received when they did their program, so that we could have some independent groups setting up using the school or using another facility. I've contacted the various schools that do have the before and after school programs to see how they are working together. And I am more than willing to work with a group, to set up a committee and to sit down and talk about how can we best do this? Where can we do provide the services that we need to provide so that our kids can have the best education. It's not a decision that was taken lightly. The board is looking at making an educational impact on our students, and we need to take a look at a different way of doing it. Question was asked, why couldn't we have it in the afternoon? And I spent, and I don't know if you're in the audience or not, but I talked to several people. We've had some good conversations. I talked to Mr. Rasco, and he's had some excellent conversations. If we did it in the afternoon and released, here's my concern. Many of the parents told us they want their high school students or middle school students home so they can watch their elementary students. By doing it this way, we're releasing around 2:42 at the high school like we always do. And then you release at 3:15 at the elementaries, and it gives time for the middle high school students to arrive home to watch the others. That would be eliminated. The other thing that would be eliminated is that you would kind of go back to the current bus room that you have in the morning. So those students would still be in a crowded bus room for 20, 25 minutes. That's the reason we went to the morning. As I said, there are probably a lot of possibilities to resolve this for each and every one who has a separate situation. And we're more than happy to try to work that out. And if you want to set up meetings, I enjoy meetings. I think out of every meeting, even though there's frustration that's there, there's always some type of resolution that comes out, and it's usually for the best. Thank you.
So now if you have an opinion that you would like to share with us, if you would stand, state your name and the town that you're from, and then tell us your opinion. Yes?
Mine does not relate to this issue. I'm Amy Garrick. I live in the village of Champlain, and I have copied you all with a request for transportation for students to Seton down in Plattsburgh. In past, I have been denied that opportunity because of insurance issues. That's what we have been told in the past. And we came across a law from the school law, 28th edition, section 2289, which states that if you transport public school students beyond the 15-mile radius for educational purposes, you must extend the same courtesy to parochial school students. And we are requesting that you reconsider the decision that you made in the fall. One of the problems was that we were told that we had not filed a request for transportation, which we do file a request for transportation every year. This year I had them personally signed, each and every one, to show that I did put that in time. We are not asking for any additional burden on the taxpayers. We are a taxpayer and we are feeling the crunch with everybody. We are willing to bring our kids to a central location, whether it be right here at the bus garage or pick up at St. Mary's Academy, and a drop-off at the same place. We are not asking for door-to-door transportation. We are not asking for any additional burden. In going down the Northway in the mornings, we watch 2, sometimes 3 NCCS buses sitting at the rest area, running gas. And we're like, let us get on these buses. We see these buses with very few children on them. Let's just ride along and save the environment and tag along on these empty buses, which is a concern. We also have a parent that passes the 2 NCCS buses who sit on the Quarry Road at the American Legion every morning. We're just questioning as to why these buses are sitting there, why the gas is running. These buses that go home to the individual bus drivers' homes, and the gas it takes to get there and back to the school. So, not to go on, but as I said, we aren't looking for additional expenses. One of the comments that was stated in our denial letter was that the children that go to the schools in Plattsburgh are of different circumstances. Well, I would like to understand what those different circumstances are, because we have children who are attending Seton who go to CV Tech as well. My son was one of them. My children all have IEPs except for one. What are the different circumstances we would like an explanation as to why. We have chosen, like the children who have chosen to go to CV Tech, who are choosing to get a vocational education as well as their diploma, we have chosen to get our children a Catholic education. One, because the classroom size is much smaller. Our children need the individual attention. That's what we've chosen for them as a better setting. It's all in a choice, and yes, we have made this choice. It is different. We are not asking for an additional burden. Again, I can't emphasize that enough. It's just getting on one of these empty buses and being dropped off for our choice for our children. Kids are duly enrolled for the purpose of special ed, gifted programs in vocational schools. They, again, are choosing that vocational school, that is CV Tech, which is a greater mileage than going to Seton. As I copied you with all MapQuest to the 5 locations that our buses already go to in Plattsburgh. All of them are within a mile distance as far as the transportation. Again, we are asking you to reconsider your decision on the transportation. If we are denied again, we will appeal. We will contact Senator Betty Little's office for assistance because we feel that we are within rights to get this transportation. And we appreciate you listening to us and taking the time and considering this.
Thank you, Amy. And you are on for discussion.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, my name's Annie Bernardes. From Rouse's Point, sorry, it's my first time. Okay, what I understood was this is a new committee that you're performing for kindergarten, grade 1 and grade 2, correct?
No, what it is, it's an RTI program,
Yeah.
which is really, it's a response to intervention, and it will, the emphasis is going to be on grades kindergarten, first grade, and second
So
grade.
how many teachers does this involve? To do this committee or this group to figure out?
Okay, fair question. In the response to intervention at the kindergarten level for 40 minutes, once a day, there will be an AIS, which is an Academic Intervention Services instructor, or what we would normally term as a reading teacher. There will be a resource room teacher, and there will be the classroom teacher. And they will work together with those students to try to remediate whatever differences they have. At the first grade, every day, there will be a 60-minute session with the same teachers. I mean, when I say same,
Right.
an AIS, the classroom, and also a resource room. And at the second grade, it will also be 60 minutes. And that will be intensive instruction in the English language arts, which is the area that we really need to focus on,
Correct.
okay?
So I'm just curious why we're disrupting how many parents for this amount. To me, it just doesn't make sense. Why couldn't the teachers come in earlier? I don't know, it just doesn't, I'm not getting the connection.
I guess I'm not getting the connection when it comes to your question, because we're not disrupting the parents because of
Well,
this.
you are.
Well,
You are. That's funny. I mean, you're changing, I mean, we have to be at work at a certain, exactly. So, hello? Now we have to get a babysitter, now we have to do this, now we have to do that. I'm not trying, but you are disrupting us, irregardless. And there's like how many parents you're disrupting compared to how many teachers you're disrupting? I mean, I just don't see the equivalent in that.
The end. In the back,
I
please.
just have one quick question. She said this for me to go ahead. I'm Carrie from Champlain. When you said that you're gonna divide the bus runs up with the high school kids and the elementary, I understood it, and maybe I'm wrong, in the afternoon, are they gonna be back on the same buses, or is it completely separate all the time now?
all the time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then in the back.
Samantha from Champlain.
Samantha.
I just have a question. How come we didn't get all of these questions before we got the letter home saying this was what was happening? And my other concern is with the Champlain area and then not having a definitive where these kids are going to be at Champlain students, Ross's Point or Moore's until the very end of the summer. It's difficult for me if I have to make a decision on what to do with my kids. I won't know until the end of the summer, and that's a legitimate concern of mine. And also, I speak for all of these parents that I can use the bus right now in the morning, and I think it's only fair that, I'm not saying this RTI program is not a wonderful thing, it's not a necessity, but I think the majority of parents, if you were to survey them or ask them, are going to drop their kids off at the school.
Yes.
And you're still gonna have that bus room problem, and I know you and I have talked about it umpteen times, but we're still going to have that bus room, because given the choice of, you've offered the school as a potential, you can drop your kids off if you have to, versus finding some place to put them, probably different than in the afternoon, because a lot of the kids don't need it in the afternoons, you're gonna have it's gonna be something new for them. They're gonna bring the kids to the school, and they're gonna go across the road to work, to Wyeth, they're gonna drive back to Champlain and go to work. You're still gonna have that bus room, and my son at 4, I'm visualizing him in my head sitting at 7, if he used to get out at 7:45, I dropped him off. He'd been there for an hour. You're worried about 25 or 30 minutes, I'm worried about an hour, and him getting, he's gonna be wild after an hour, and he's not gonna walk into his classroom and take advantage of this wonderful RTI program. He's going to be wound up, he's going to run around that gym, he's not gonna wanna listen to who's ever in that poor gymnasium with these children. He's gonna wanna go to school. And I could pay for daycare. I think it's $30 at the Learning Center to put one kid in before.
And then they have a cutoff limit of how many
Yes,
kids
and they don't
can
have
take.
room right now for everybody. And so I have 2 kids, so that's $60 extra for me every week to do this when I'm paying taxes. And I want the kids to all be able to read. However, it's a legitimate question the parents are asking if there isn't a better way. And I wish we would have gotten this question before and had this committee before and been able to discuss this and come up with a better solution before we got the letter saying, here you go, we did this. Because we all feel like we got a little cheated in getting the letter saying, it's done. And now we're having this potential committee. We could have avoided all of this if we'd done maybe some of this before, like I said the last time. I feel like it was not, we get surveys about what kind of a superintendent do we want, but we can't get a survey on what do we want to do with our kids in the morning. I don't understand that.
I'm Wanda from Morris Forks. I don't understand why this was limited to the elementary families. Why wasn't the entire district notified about these bus changes and time changes and everything? It affects everybody.
Carrie Gagnon, Morris. My question pertains to this common planning time, and that we need this because the scores are low and we need to get the kids up to speed and that kind of thing. You're taking 2.5 hours out of instruction time a week from kids if you do this common planning time. I cannot grasp that concept at all. I need to plan, but I'm gonna take 2.5 hours away for instruction a week. Times that by 40 weeks. You're shaking your head no. How is that no?
I guess what I'm saying is, we have right now the longest elementary school day, even with this half hour, okay? And basically, the teachers are still gonna be there for the full time. What you're doing is you're just reducing the class day by a half hour, but you need to provide time for the teachers to collaborate if you want to have a stronger educational program. You cannot all operate on an island. I mean, these teachers need to meet together to talk about strategies, to look at what they're gonna do in the next couple of days to help these students.
I agree. I was a teacher. My thought about that is, do I need every day a half an hour to do that kind of planning time? To me, this once a month thing that you had was fine. It affected me once a month, not every day.
It's a lot easier dealing with once a month than it is going to be every single morning.
Sarah Hunter, Champlain. I think we can all agree that the parents aren't saying that the program isn't effective and it isn't needed. We're concerned that daycare in this area is difficult to find already. You're asking me to find daycare for my child for an hour before you normally, or a half hour before normal. I couldn't find daycare for her before she started school in this area. For me to find it is gonna be impossible, and especially when I'm looking at the number of people that are gonna be out there looking the same time as me. I also understand my daughter is already in kindergarten, sitting in the bus room in the mornings. She is going to be there again. Some of us actually don't start at 8 o'clock, some of us start our day earlier than that. How early are you gonna make that room accessible, or these programs accessible? For example, I start my job at 7:30 in the morning. My child would have to be dropped off in Rouse's Point by 7:15 at the latest. How early is your program gonna start? What are you gonna do with my child within that program? Is she going to sit there in that room with her coat and hat on, waiting to be transported wherever? you're gonna have drop spots, or you're recommending possibilities of other places to put her, say St. Mary's Elementary. So she's gonna take a bus to St. Mary's, or I can drop her off at St. Mary's Elementary. She'll get undressed, do whatever they're gonna do with her, get her dressed back up, and get her to school. Who's gonna be responsible for that? Who's gonna pick up the cost of that? I paid my daycare for the first 4 years that she was growing up before she started school. Now you're asking me to start paying daycare again for somebody to watch my child while these programs go on. Again, I understand that the program is needed. There are children that are getting left behind that don't need to be left behind. But my child is gonna get lost in the cracks while saving those children being left behind.
Any other comments?
I'm Laura Hoy, I'm from Rouse's Point. I know you had said something about fixing the problem at night, about having the older siblings at home when the other siblings get home. But it's causing the same problems in the morning, where I have an older sibling who is home when I go to school so that both of them can get on the bus. So now you're forcing a lot of parents probably, to possibly leave their child who is not of age home alone to try to catch the bus and not miss the bus because they don't have any other place to put their child. And I don't want to see, children get left at home alone when they're not old enough to be, because you're forcing some parents into that situation. Again, daycare is hard to find, let alone first thing in the morning. And I know one of the suggestions was, leave them with a neighbor. We have neighbors who all have younger children in the same boat who will have to go to work at 8 o'clock. Again, we're gonna have to drop our kids off at school, so they're still gonna be in the bus room for longer now. Or they're gonna get left at home unattended because parents have no choice.
My name's Chris Goslin, I'm from Champlain. I'm actually speaking more towards the first subject that Amy Garrigan brought up. I too have children down there in which we carpool every day. There are several families that carpool. We waste gas, we waste the environment. You guys have a solution that will cost nothing. I am confused by the fact that we have legal precedents that shows you are obligated to us to supply this stuff, to supply this particular transportation. I mean, again, dependent upon the outcome, today we either decide, okay, we go to the lawyer, or we drop the kids off. We have two choices.
Hi, I'm Jenny Packwood from Rouse's Point. Mine's more of a comment that we live in a community, and I'm fairly new to the community, and I'm slightly disappointed that there wasn't any facilitation in the community around the whole subject. It's just one day you get a letter saying, oh, by the way, this is what we're gonna do. It's a board that serves us. We pay taxes, and I feel like at least the common courtesy or the proper thing to do would be to facilitate the conversation of, what works best for everybody. Secondly, I guess it's not that I'm confused, it's for children with educational difficulties, and I certainly understand because my son uses those benefits currently, and it's important to me. He does speech and he does reading, and they are important to me to the point where the speech isn't sufficient with what you're currently providing. I had to find alternate methods and take my son to a speech in Plattsburgh, but I feel like that was my responsibility as a parent for my son with difficulties, and if there were extra time that was needed, then I would coordinate with the school to find the appropriate methods or school times. I mean, did we talk to the parents of the children with the difficulty and say, what works for you guys? Can you do an extra hour, instead of the whole community? Because most certainly the hour affects me too. I mean, I take him an hour after school every day. for speech therapy, and that works, but if you said to me, we have a classroom with 3 teachers, and we're gonna offer you that hour after school because it's important to us, would you be willing to bring your son? Most certainly. But that's not being offered, and I feel like that's what you wanna do, and that's great, but there could be other ways of doing that.
The only clarification I want to make there is, it's not just for kids who have difficulties, it's when kids come to school, there are difficulties that can be prevented, and it will address all the students. It addresses those students who have difficulties, it addresses those students who are doing well, it helps them to improve, and at the same time, those students who have a lot of capabilities, it helps them to accelerate to the potential that they're capable of. And those are the kind of things that we need to do at the primary level.
If the hour is for the teachers and not the students, it's not working. The speech time that he gets now doesn't work. Let's talk about that instead of, let's give the teachers more time to work on how they can make it better. I mean,
Is this? Please stand.
Sharon Richards, Ross's Point. The RIT program is part of the No Child Left Behind that President Bush is advocating, correct?
It's a mandate that we're going to.
It's a mandated order for the school district to receive federal funding, correct? And isn't this, in a sense, also checking on the performance of our teachers?
The part of the RTI that you have to understand that's mandated is that before you can identify a child, okay, you're going to have that child would have to be in a regular classroom for a period of time. Now, if that child was still having difficulties, that child would have to be removed, put into a small group, and have at least 6 weeks of instruction. Then, if that child didn't do well there, then that child would have to be removed again and be worked on one-on-one for 6 weeks. And then still, if that child did not do well, then that child would be recommended to the Committee on Special Education. So what this program does with the format and the structure that NCCS has developed, and this was a school-wide committee that did this, is it eliminates all those intermediate steps because we start focusing on and we eliminate that process of having to get a teacher to put that child in a small group or getting another teacher to have that child go one-on-one. By doing this intensive is what we call a consultant model, having that resource room teacher present, then we can accomplish those goals. And we will, and we've looked at it, we were able to do it a couple years ago before the budget cuts started coming in, where we did have some extended time, and we were able to reduce significantly the number of students that we were identifying. That's the reason why we pursued this particular program.
Has Northeastern School District ever looked into the possibility of doing what the Shazy School District does? They have an 8th period, which is children that need any kind of remedial help. That's the time they get it in that 8th period. All your athletic activities are done basically during that 8th period, your practices. They'll have the 2 bus runs in the afternoon. Teachers work till, is it 3:30, I think? 3:15, is it in Shazy?
Oh, I don't know about Shazy.
Shazy. But they have the 8th period. The children's school starts at 10 after 8, used to be. I mean, this is something that for the last 25 years, I always felt would be appropriate for this school system because it was successful in Shazy. My children did their first several years of school in Shazy, and children weren't left behind, so to speak. They got the remedial help when they were falling behind. They didn't wait 18 months for a child to be behind his peers to get that remedial help.
But that's exactly what we're doing.
But you're taking a half hour in the morning that's disrupting everyone's family life, everyone's work life. Your teachers aren't giving up anything.
Exactly.
Your teachers aren't doing anything. The school is not doing anything. The school is doing what they have to do to meet government bylaws, to get the federal aid that comes through that act.
Can I,
Exactly.
am I correct?
I'm sorry. Is there anyone else who has not spoken that, go ahead, please.
My name's Paul Lavelle, I'm from Moore'sport. I've been in the district for 40-some years, so I'm not new, but I remember 30 years ago, better than 30 years ago, when Moore's and Champlain merged. When I got off the bus in Morris, I didn't sit in the cafeteria for 30 to 45 minutes. I believe we went there to the classroom. So 35, this has been going on for better than 30 years, this half-hour thing. I don't know, I remember when I drove a bus also, I picked up a kid on the Drown Road at 10 minutes to 7 in the morning. I dropped him off at school in Champlain at 10 after 8.
Yeah.
Kid was on the bus for an hour and 20 minutes. So, you know, when we start running these different runs, if there's a grown-up, seniors on the Drown Road in Ellenburg, and there's a kindergarten in Ellenburg, you don't pick, that's a long drive to the schools. So, I don't know what the issue is, it's a half hour in the morning, layover time in Champlain, or Moore's, what the problem is, you're getting back 15 minutes early, but an hour and 20 minutes on for a kid is a long time. And like I said, I didn't spend my mornings in the cafeteria when I went to Moore's school. I don't know what the difference is now.
I'm sorry, Mr. Blaine is next.
Samuel Blaine, Champlain. You guys got a real problem on your hands here. You changed something that's been going on for years and years and years, and you didn't bring everybody into the fold first. Which frankly surprises me, because I sat up there and I know many of you for many, many years. I'm surprised that you would let this happen. And you let this happen by not talking to these people first. So you're gonna have to fix it. I don't know how you're gonna fix it, but you're gonna have to fix it. Because you're opening yourself up to all kinds of problems. Some of these kids could get hurt, they could get this, they could get that, and you really screwed up in the long run. Trying to make it better, but you really screwed up. That's pretty much it.
Yes, ma'am.
Marie Sterling, I'm from Champlain. You sent a letter home saying it was a done deal. Obviously, you didn't include all the parents in on that were going to be affected by it. My question is seeing the people that are here tonight, is that going to change your mind in any way? Are you going to put something back out there for us? I mean, obviously, you would have had a much bigger turnout if you had put it out prior to making your decision. People are now thinking it's a done deal. Why bother going now? We need to tell these parents that they can still come voice their opinion on it.
Is it a done deal?
Is it a done deal? Will it be readdressed?
I mean, ultimately, is it up to the parents to make the decision? We are the taxpayers. And from what I understand from RTI, it's the intervention of high-quality instruction to match a student's needs. It's the teacher that should spot in that classroom whether, Johnny or Joey or Sarah has a problem. Then you bring in that committee to help that person along with the other kids so they're not left behind.
Ultimately, it's the board's decision what time the school will start and how we will structure. We will take what you said tonight under advisement, and we will have another meeting next month, and we just have to look at what we have.
What about a legal petition?
We should find out about if you want to do a petition, you can.
But will that change the board's mind?
Ultimately, we have the decision to vote the budget down when the school budget comes up.
Yeah, but then you have kids coming home to say, if they
Well, if
cancel the
that's only
budget,
way
we're
to get
gonna
our
lose our
message
sports.
across, then maybe that's what we need to do.
Again, we thank you for coming this evening. We've had our talk. We'd like to have another dialogue. Let us give a chance to think of what's been said. Give us an opportunity to look into the options that Mr. Hebert has looked into for alternate care for the children prior to school. See what we can do, and we will definitely get back to you. I'm sorry, the time is done.
No, it's not.
It's not?
No.
Would it be possible just to send out a letter asking how many parents are going to
26
be
minutes.
affected and have him return it back to Mr. Hebert so he knows that, because he had said that there's not going to be many students in the, many going to be there in the morning, and ask the parents, are you going to need morning care? And so then you would know the impact rather than, so then you would understand how many kids we're looking at in that bus room.
I still think you're looking at the same amount of kids in the bus room, only longer now.
Yeah, possible to put some parents that are affected on this board.
Are you looking at forming a committee with some of the parents to discuss alternatives in the morning?
Right now, we'd just like to take some time to see the options that Mr. Hebert has discussed, to see if any of them will come to fruition. There's certainly an opportunity out there for someone to step forward an offer to open childcare at either the school or, it's an open area, other
Why
schools
should-
do
yeah, is it
it,
gonna be free of charge? I
other
mean,
schools do it,
And it doesn't make it right.
at a reduced,
That's what I'd like to get away from.
Well, that's why we started this, it's only April. We need to do something with the education. We need to increase the reading.
and we understand that, we
So that's why
understand
we're
that,
starting
but
this in April.
inconvenience the teachers a little bit, you know? They are not being
I
inconvenienced
don't
at
wanna
all,
get
they
into
still
it.
go in and work their same number of hours.
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
How many have children in
How many
elementary
of you on the board are affected by this?
Excuse me, this gentleman has the floor.
The answer is 0.
My name's Ben Favreau, I'm from Champlain. I kind of have a question. I heard you, a few of you state that this is being done at other schools. I've heard of this, but I'm not familiar with cutting the school hours. I heard about them extending them. Have you spoken with other districts that have done this? That's my question. I agree, you know, cutting the classroom 2.5 hours a week, kind of in disagreement with that. I don't see how that can help. That's just my comment.
Can I have those hours? I'm sorry, you had a question, sir?
I just wanted to know how many of the people on the board are affected by it. I'm just kind of curious.
And we've all, I mean, some of us have had children that have come to the system.
No.
Now.
We've already,
None of us have children that are elementary school.
So how could you
There's
have
a board seat that will be open, and if you have, you're certainly welcome to get a petition and get 25 signatures and guide us if you think you have a better
That's not what I'm
solution.
saying. I'm just
But
wondering.
I'm sorry, but we're trying to do the best that we can for our students, and this was the solution that was offered.
I don't disagree that you're trying to do the best for the students. All I think that we're asking is that the parents would have been involved in some of the proposals you made to make that happen.
The
That's it.
RTI was presented at a public meeting. This was discussed at budget meetings. If the information didn't get out or you weren't at the meeting, I'm sorry, but they were public forums. It was discussed prior to this.
Okay.
And if that wasn't enough, I'm sorry that you feel, but it was all discussed at public forums.
And that's fine, and I think that this group here now indicates to you that there's a need for some type of discussion going further. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, thank you again for coming. Timekeeper, is our half hour done now?
31 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, we have quite an agenda in front of us. Could I ask if any of you are going to leave, that you do leave now, so that we don't disrupt the meeting? We'd love you to stay and hear what's going on. Can I have a motion accepting the previous minutes from the special budget meeting of February 20th, the regular March 6th meeting, the special budget meeting on March 13th, and the special March 14th meeting?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Can I have a motion accepting the treasurer's reports? These are all February 2007. They're the multi-fund, the lunch fund, the senior high boiler, the middle school boiler phase 3, the Rouse's Point mildew project, the tax tertiary, unemployment, and the extra classroom activity account.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carries. The chair acknowledges receipt of the personnel attendance for the period February 2007. Our first report this evening will be from Collins and Scoville. Gentlemen?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Landon. I'm a project architect for Collins and Scoville. We're here this evening to give the board and the public a quick update on the capital project. I have a handout for the board here to pass those around. Thank you. I have additional copies here for the folks, if you could share. We can quite some other people for our presentation. So, what we're going to do this evening is give you an update on the capital project. Basically, what we're looking to do is to review the scope of work as we move forward with the schematic design process of this phase of the project. Over the course of the next month, we will be preparing drawings and outline specifications to give to the construction manager for pricing. And so that's the process that we're looking at this point. We hope to have those completed by the end of April and report back from the construction manager mid the following month. To further the schedule so that there's clarity as to where we're headed, we'll be looking to complete design development drawings end of June and construction documents that complete the end of October to be submitted to State Education Department. At this point, we don't have an update on the budget, specifically because we're going forward with those items to develop for BBL price. So there's been no real changes in that. And I'm going to turn the floor over to Ron to go over the scope that's in the packets. He's going to focus on those items that were brought up in terms of our review with the staff and the teachers and principals and the maintenance and the superintendent as we've been going through to further define our scope of work. Is there any general questions? Okay. Ron?
Right. Okay, on the handouts, page 3, Morris Elementary School is the list of all the items that were previously in the scope. I'm not going to go through each of those items. Gone through it many times before. They're all unchanged. One thing I do want to say about item number 1 is after discussions in the schools with staff, they would prefer, where we're taking out carpet, to put back vinyl composition tile, VCT. Otherwise, all those items remain. On page 4 are a couple new items that have come up, and I've also brought them up to the board before, but I'll just review those. These are not in a priority list. They're just randomly ordered. One is a faculty bathroom on the second floor at Morris. There's a space for that available. Another is a window to provide visibility at the vestibule entry. That's something that we've talked about before and we're including now. And the other is to replace the basement windows for the classrooms that are going to remain in the basement because they are in poor shape. They weren't replaced when the rest of the building windows were replaced. The colored areas in the plan show the areas that we're doing work, renovating the bathrooms, the new bathroom, a little color at the vestibule area where we'd be putting the window in. On page 6 is the Rouse's Point scope. Again, the recommendation was to, or the preference was for VCT to replace the carpet.
Tile.
Or tile.
It says tile. I mean, what is the difference between, it says replace carpeting with vinyl composition tile. What are you saying?
I'm saying that's what the preference was versus putting carpet back.
Oh, okay, I thought you were saying something different than what this was. Sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
Getting back, I need to go backwards, but.
Oh, no, that's okay, I forgot to ask a question.
The facility, the bathroom facility, that would be accessible?
Yes, it would be a handicapped accessible faculty bathroom.
One other thing too, I was under the assumption, of course, I'm the person who complained about the windows in the basement, they're 1938. There are not that many. I wish we could replace all of them, not leave 3, 4, have them 2008 models and the 1938 models. And, I just think if we go, we should go with all of them. There are not that many.
Right, okay, I agree with that. Any other questions or comments about it? At Rouse's Point, On to page 7, for the added scope items are the window to provide visibility at the vestibule entry. And we would have that from the office area to that vestibule. So we're looking at the same scenario for all the schools where the outer vestibule doors would be open, the inner vestibule doors could remain locked, and a visitor would come to the window and get buzzed in to the school.
So we're actually going to be changing the storage room in that area, right?
Yes. Renovation to that office area to provide that, to make that happen.
Can I ask one question? Is this the exact design is going to be?
No.
Because I just wondered why, you got beautiful windows looking out to a bunch of trees. It looks like in the front we're not going to have hardly any windows.
It's not the final design. It's very preliminary to give you an idea of the massing. And we haven't met to talk with anybody about those kinds of issues yet. So we'll be doing that. Renovate space and basement for the cafeteria warming kitchen. That's another one of the added scope items. And the plan, page 9 shows that. While we're on page 9, looking at those plans, comment came up in a prior presentation about the special ed rooms. We had shown them 2 different sizes. We had shown one smaller than a standard classroom. Those are now both 800 square feet, which is slightly larger than a standard classroom. They're both approximately the same size, so if there was not a need for special ed in the future, they could be both used as standard classrooms. If we flip back for a minute to page 8, shows a new parking layout, shows the bus staging area expanded so all the buses can fit. And parking lot in the back with a parent drop-off. The new entrance to the addition will be a handicapped accessible entrance also. That's not the exact location for the relocated playground equipment. We don't have surveys yet, so we don't know exactly how close this is going to be to the final result. Any questions on Ross's plan? On the middle school, again, page 10 is the list of all the pre-referendum scope. Page 11 are the potential scope revisions and additions. The first one is in the pre-referendum version, we had moving the district offices to another location so that we could facilitate, putting the middle school office at a window for the vestibule. And we don't need to do all that moving around, so now we're proposing keeping everyone in their locations, but doing the internal modifications to improve the layout in those spaces. Moving building and ground storage to the rear of the middle school. Pre-referendum, we showed a garage addition to the bus maintenance facility. It would be a better location if they were attached to the back of the middle school. Nope. This shows a possible location. It's not definite yet, but this would be back behind where the water treatment addition is.
The only question on that, I thought originally that one of the reasons we're taking it from where it is that we didn't want a building attached that had machinery and fuel and everything in it.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that attached to the building the same way?
It can be attached. There has to be a 2-hour separation well, and you cannot access the garage from the school building. You have to go outside and back in.
So it's like a firewall.
Right. The next item, relocate the maintenance staff offices to this addition in lieu of renovating existing space in the high school. No one has been happy or able to find a satisfactory location for those to do that renovation. So that's the main reason this is in this scope. Reduce the extent of air conditioning in the middle school. In the original pre-referendum budget, we had air conditioning all the middle school classrooms. We were suggesting that we go ahead and air condition the office spaces, the computer classroom, and any interior student-occupied rooms that don't have windows for natural ventilation. Provide card or proximity security for primary entry perimeter doors, and that would be for the doors that are typically used by teachers from their parking areas as well as the main school entrances.
That will not be in the elementary buildings either? Or is that gonna be in?
I'm not sure.
The card readers?
Yeah, I think we
Card
decided
readers
we're
and all.
gonna try to add them to all of the buildings. As there's already an existing system in all of the buildings, we're looking at expanding them, that's essentially what.
So if there's a guest that wants access into the building, then they'll buzz, and somebody will have to manually let them in.
Correct. And the last one, keep home careers in current location in order to retain 3 art rooms. We had shown taking away 1 art room for the home careers room, that's not really feasible. Next page is the middle school floor plan. And
Quick-
page, yeah.
Excuse me, a quick question on page 12. For the maintenance vehicle, the new addition's gonna be, is there any fuel tanks in that area right now, or do we remove all the fuel tanks in the ground?
They're all
This
gone.
building?
They're all gone. There was, Jim, what was put in?
There was a 300-gallon tank that was out there that we used for our emergency, that was used for an emergency generator. That initially when they put the school in, but that was back in the 50s, and we took that out when we did the water project. So there is no storage tanks there. And we also took the 500-gallon one out that was for our high school generator also. So both tanks have been removed from the ground, because they were only single wall.
Any other questions, comments about the middle school? High school, again, page 13 lists all the pre-referendum scope. There's one mistake on this page, the very last item, music storage cabinets, is not part of the pre-referendum scope. It is an added scope item that we're planning right now to include. It should have been listed on the next page. And on the next page, added revised scope. For high school, renovate and expand the bathrooms opposite the high school offices. So we're looking at enlarging those because those are really needed for public use, as well as they're not in very good shape. And gut renovating the existing bathrooms that are being used down here, and fixing up these bathrooms, minimal renovation, so that they could be used, but they would not be made handicap accessible, they would not receive a gut renovation like the other bathrooms. So the budget money still covers doing these two and this minor.
What's the location on the minor ones again?
Minor ones are the ones that are currently closed.
Way down there?
Yeah, way down.
So we're gonna do minor renovations on those? How minor? Is that, right now, that I don't believe
They're not usable right now. We would be fixing, replacing whatever plumbing fixtures are not currently, operating. Basically, that's it, bringing just the plumbing work up to speed. We wouldn't be doing aesthetic renovations or anything like that, or right now, the clearances don't meet handicap accessibility, we wouldn't be changing those.
And might I ask, why not?
Because in the budget, we didn't allow money for renovating all 3 sets. It was thought by the staff that this is the least important set here. This is a very important set here that's minimal, and really should be a bigger set of toilet.
And those are the ones here,
Right,
across
correct.
from the office.
Yeah,
So we're saying that this bathroom site here is used mostly by the students in this building.
the ones up right out here.
Right out here?
Well, I don't know if they're used mostly by the students. These
You
are,
want me to answer?
yeah, can you help me on that?
The bathrooms across the hall, the students use during the day if need be. Obviously, there's only 2 stalls in each one, so it's a lot better if they go back to the one near the faculty lounge. But at lunchtime, or anytime the community comes in for the prom, or for graduation, or for any sporting events, those 2 bathrooms are the ones that everyone from the community has to come into. And if anybody's been in there, the floors are actually starting when you step on them to crumble, and I know Jim said things are rotting out in there. They're in terrible shape. Years and years ago, someone cleaned all of it with lye or something to that effect. So if anybody walks in there, they'll see how bad they are. So our concern was all the kids use those at lunchtime or during tests, during regents, because that's close for them. And so we asked if they could be made larger instead, plus made handicapped accessible to get in. She can go in there now, but I guess they are accessible right now, but they're very small. So we asked, instead of going to that back one that isn't even open right now, if we could update the one we have next to the faculty room and enlarge the one so that it would be in better shape, because something's got to be done with that one.
So if we're gonna enlarge this one, this is gonna be a combined facility. It's gonna be teachers.
It
and
is
students.
combined already.
It is?
It's just that there's, 2 stalls, so most
Mhm.
people go elsewhere, because if you have to be a female, you gotta wait in line in there, so.
I agree with the facelift on this one, but I also wanna see something done down below where the students are. The whole teaching area is down that end of town.
Yeah.
There's
This
that-
one still is a gut renovation, and this is the main student bathroom now even.
Next to the faculty.
Yes, yes. So that's,
The one in the back that's in green is one that was open, I guess, hasn't been open since I've been here. And that one's been used as storage since I've been here.
So if you were a kid in health class and you wanted to go to the bathroom, you could have a nice little walk.
currently you have to go to these.
I know.
In this version, you can go to these, which is closer.
When all's said and done.
But not if you're handicapped.
Correct.
I'd like to see the additional cost on making that handicap accessible. Not saying we're gonna do it, but I'm just saying, what would be the difference? Could you? Huh?
It's quite a,
Is there,
it's quite a bit, because then it means a gut rehab on that bathroom. If the board agrees, we can include that in schematic design and get the prices.
You have the space to do it?
Yes.
You do.
There wouldn't be as many fixtures in there as there are right now, but there doesn't need to be.
I mean, we could have a couple stalls that are handicap accessible, and I just think it's important to me.
Can you work up that?
Again, provide card or proximity security for entry doors. And the bus garage, this is not a new item, it's just on this page, it's the roof on the bus manual. Next page is the plan. Any questions on the high school or any of the items?
EPDM, what is that?
That's a rubber roof, and I'm not sure what it stands for.
Well, I don't need to know that, but it's a rubber roof.
It's a rubber
It's
roof.
essentially, it's a single ply rubber roof, we would specify a 60 mil non-reinforced, fully adhered roof.
And what kind of warranty would you get on that kind of thing?
Typically, it's a 20-year warranty, it's usually a 15-year with a 5-year extended.
And what does that mean, the warranty?
What does that,
Yeah, if
what
it
do you
leaks,
mean, what does that cover?
yeah, well, you know, when it's warranted not to leak for 15 or 20 years?
It's warranted to provide the membrane as a coverage for your building, to protect your building for that period of time. It won't warranty it for someone going up and punching a hole in it, or it won't warranty it if you have a hurricane come through and drop a tree on it. But there is, the product itself is warranted and its connections, flashings and all of that good stuff that goes along with
So,
it for that period of time.
under normal use, if it leaks, somebody would come and repair that for the district at no cost?
I don't think that that's true, I'd have to double check. I think that that depends a little bit on what the leak has been caused by.
Well, you know, certainly, you know, a hurricane or a tree or somebody going up there and poking is, understand it wouldn't be warranted. But I suspect this would be going around the chimneys or vents and things like that, and invariably those kinds of things.
I would have to ask the individual companies to produce the warranties, because they do differ from company to company as to the specifics on the warranty. Some of them will cover the repair and the investigation, some of them will cover the repair if the investigation proves out to be of their fault, that sort of thing.
So the manufacturer's warranting it.
The
The roof
manufacturer.
itself, you know, the manufacturer can say, well, they installed it incorrectly, or you gotta go back to whoever did the flashing on it. You know.
There's typically a warranty that goes along with that, and I don't know the specifics.
They would check to make sure that it was installed correctly,
Yes.
but if it is installed correctly, then there should be.
Okay.
Typically, we have the manufacturer inspect prior to final completion.
That's a flat roof, isn't it?
On the bus garage, it's pitched, but all the other buildings.
Yeah, I do.
Well,
My
they're
feeling is
all,
flat roofs are tough.
they're all a minimum slope of 1/4 inch per foot, but effectively, they drag. They don't pump.
Thank
Okay, I guess at this stage, what the architects are asking is, we said that any type of revisions whatsoever would come to the board for approval. And we're asking if the board approves going ahead with the schematic drawings to show all of the things that were brought forth tonight. So with that approval, then they can go ahead to the next phase, to the schematic drawing. That's why it's been brought to the board tonight.
Now, with your drawings, I don't know, like the faculty bathroom and doors, it may be there, it may not, but is that gonna be put in the drawing so that,
It's going to be put in the schematic design drawings. BBL, the construction management company, will estimate those drawings. So there will be a price which including that bathroom. If at that time, when we get that estimate, it's too high, then we have to look at what we need to revise to get it back down to.
and you do the same for the bathroom in the high school?
Mhm.
We only intend to come back for the estimates are done. Hopefully, we'll come back with good news, and we'll all be able to smile and shake our heads and continue on. But we'll come back and report what the construction manager has developed as a schematic design estimate.
With these possible additions, do you know or have any idea of what the cost increase is right now?
No, we don't specifically know, because we want to now stop doing our estimates and have BBL do the estimating. We don't think any of these are major items, and we're optimistic that they fit in the budget that we originally gave you. But I don't know specifically how much for each item.
Can we get the consensus of the board to proceed then?
Yeah, because no matter what, we can take it out, right?
Yes.
All right, thanks.
One last item, if I may close. There was a question on the board last time we were here about the impact on the buildings for the SHPO review.
Right, and I said I would get back to you about that.
Ron, go ahead.
We're doing other projects in the office dealing with SHPO. Albany Schools is one. They have many historical buildings. And our experience has been that there's no impact on the schedule. They do sometimes take a while to review things, but at the time they would be reviewing it, we can proceed with other work. So it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. Can I get a motion recommending approving the Committee on Preschool Special Education recommendations from their meetings held on 3/12/07?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
I met with Ms. Hunt and we discussed these, and I'm asking you to accept the recommendations to the school special ed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Could I get a motion recommending approving the Committee on Special Education recommendations from their meetings held on 3/1, 5, 6, 8, 12, 14, 15, 22, 23, 26, 28, and 29 of 2007?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Okay, and I forgot to tell you, there are a total of 8 CPSC meetings. There are a total of 104 CSE meetings. And they are divided into this year and next school year. For this school year, there is an increase to the special ed program of $25,160. We had 3 children transfer into the district, which caused that, and an evaluation. As far as the recommendations for the 2007-08 school year, there is an increase of $26,595, which also has a new student, different placement, and an evaluation, and one is an aid reduction of 50%.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend the permanent appointment of Jacqueline Warner as typist effective April 4th, 2007.
So moved.
Discussion?
Yes, out of the top 3, Jackie scored first. Provision there.
That does include the calling. Isn't she the one that calls?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that's right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend Dennis Rasco be granted tenure as an elementary principal effective July 1st, 2007.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend accepting the letter of retirement received from Joseph A. Landry, mathematics teacher, at the conclusion of the 2006-2007 school year. A request authorization to post.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion recommending accepting the letter of retirement received from Nellie Rivard, typist, effective June 30th, 2007, and request authorization to post?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion recommending accepting the letter of retirement received from Ronald Rivard, physical education teacher, effective the end of the school year, and request authorization to post?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. It's basically in all 3. I think we were very fortunate to have these people in the district. Not only were they great teachers and great secretary typists, but also they were well liked by the kids and they did a lot of extra work. So they surely will be missed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can we get a motion recommending increasing the stipend for the chief election inspector at Moyers Elementary from $9 an hour to $11 an hour effective May 2000 budget vote?
So moved.
I'm sorry, 2007 budget vote, excuse me.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion?
Why are we increasing this?
Well, because it hasn't been done over a long period of time, and she basically has a lot of the responsibility. She's in charge of everybody there. She has to bring all the materials and everything. I think she should probably receive a little bit more than just the normal election officer.
And can I ask what the inspection officer, say, at the high school compared to elsewhere, is there?
I'm the district clerk who oversees that, and there's no, it's with my stipend. It's included in my stipend
Thank you.
as a district clerk.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I get a motion recommending adopting the proposed 2007, 2008 school budget in the amount of $25,547,483.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
I would like to talk to the budget. At our last budget meeting, this was the number that we arrived at by making a few adjustments to the list that we had provided at that meeting. At that time, we were estimating a tax levy of about $480,000, or about 5% increase. And we were talking about the actual tax rate being about zero, except for the proposition for the buses. We were very fortunate with the additional state aid that we received after the latest budget enactment. The numbers look in excess of about $300,000. There are some numbers that really don't affect our budget, such as pre-kindergarten. We don't actually count that as part of our budget. So in reviewing the extra state aid, we're conservatively estimating that it's approximately about $279,000. There are some items in there that might not really come about for us, but right now it looks about like $279,000. So I'm proposing, and this will be done when we set the tax levy in August, of taking almost all of that money and reducing the tax levy by the additional state aid. Approximately $120,000 of that would offset the proposition for the school buses, which would make the tax increase an absolute zero. And if we applied another $120,000 of that money against the tax levy, it would reduce it by about 26 cents per thousand, and the levy would go from approximately $22.11 to about $21.85. It's about almost 1.2% decrease in the actual levy. The levy would only be increasing about $240,000, or the actual levy would be only about 2.5%, but the tax rate would be more than about 1.2% less. There are still some unknowns. Assessments are changing and equalization rates, so of course they always have their net effect, but we could actually see a larger reduction on the tax levy than 1.7%. So we're happy that we got this additional state aid. For sure, the tax rate will be less than it was last year, and the levy increase will be minimal. So we're happy that even with the bus proposition and everything, the actual rate will be less than last year by about 26 cents or more.
Okay, just to be devil's advocate, Bill, the people that were here earlier who said they were going to show us they meant business by voting the budget down, what would happen if those people got out in force and in fact did vote the budget down? What is contingency?
Contingency is a whole nother issue, because tonight we've basically been talking about revenues.
Okay.
And contingency means the expenditure level of the budget. So if that were to happen, I believe we were talking about, I have the number here, if you can just give me a second. I just have to get my contingency sheet here. I think it was, we would still have to cut $547,000 because it's the expenditure side, not the revenues.
Okay,
So if the budget failed and we had to go to the contingency, the budget would go down to about 25 million. And that would be about 547,000, and then I would say the tax rate would be down about 5 or 6%.
Thank you.
Bill, are we well enough off that we should put a little bit of money in the kitty fund for rainy day?
Actually, I'm sitting on about 39,000 now that I'm not sure of, that I think that we'll have. As we discussed earlier, this I thought was a pretty sound budget, and we didn't make a lot of cuts. So it's not like, I think fiscally, we've set up a few reserves. We've had a decent fund balance that we've carried forward. I think that this is a good time to take advantage of this and let the taxpayers know that we're trying to look out for them.
Give it back to them.
I think we're really trying to be responsible, and I think this is the opportune time for us to do that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion recommending approval of the 2007-2008 school calendar as presented? 1.5 more superintendent days will be added for the Model United Nations.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, the reason that we're holding off on the Model UN is because I contacted State Ed, I contacted Bill Adams, and they can't tell us yet when the math test will take place. And this year we had kind of a difficulty because when we go for a staff development day, we basically have to utilize our schools. And, it was very difficult to try to squeeze in the New York State math exam at the same time, especially since we're doing 3 through 8 now. So once we get those dates, then we will be able to decide which weekend or which week that we're going to put in for the Model UN. And the other one that's there, you probably, I don't know if you've noticed or not, we put in would be the NISMA on May 16th. Nancy has asked that we would be able to host this again, and basically by having an early dismissal on that May 16th, that will allow us to host the NISMA.
Are you adding, or are we just going flex with the superintendent days?
We're just waiting to see.
So it's not gonna be a net increase?
Oh, no, it's not an increase, it's just, I'm not sure where it's gonna fall.
We don't know when it's gonna
Right. This year, we tried to move it back one extra weekend because we didn't want to have it so close to the vacation, and when we did, we hit the math test. So I called Bill Adams, I checked the State Ed, but nobody said, no, you might not know until May as to when that date's gonna be.
You hit the SATs too. It was the same day as SATs,
What is?
which was a conflict.
Oh.
This year, the Model UN.
Oh, yes.
So the
I
kids
know.
had to leave for the SATs who were participating.
But the problem is, until the state tells us when these tests are,
I know.
so.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend payment of $6,359.32 to Peru Central School for Health and Welfare Services 2006-2007 for 11 students.
So moved.
Discussion?
These are the students that we have every year that go to Seton, that are our responsibility, and this is for the health and care that.
They go to Seton,
Yes. the
and
health-
Peru provides a service.
Right, the group provides the health services, there's 11.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend payment of $10,616 to Plattsburgh City School District for tuition of a particular student.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, each year we have to do this. We have 2 students that attend Plattsburgh, so we do have to pay for the service there. These students have been going there for several years. I believe one of them, this is their last year.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend payment of $10,616 to Plattsburgh City School District for tuition of a particular student.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion?
This is the second student.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Recommending the following additions to the 2006-2007 substitute list. Mary Beth Abdallah Capo, Ian Brassard, non-certified Lena Cianchulo Nelson. That's typing. I'm sorry, so moved was Sharon, Steve was the second. Any discussion? All in favor? Recommend payment of $25,970 to Trojan Energy Systems to retube both ESCO Model FST 250 hot water boilers in the high school.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend payment of $2,240 to Trojan Energy Systems dated 3/28/07 for labor and miscellaneous items for hot water boilers in the high school.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
This would not, we could incorporate this in a capital project?
This is
This is the emergency project. It's the emergency project.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend payment to Holbrook Brothers Incorporated, the amount of $2,618 for a 1,000-gallon skid tank emergency oil tank project.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
This was the temporary tank that we had to bring in order when we found out that we had the leak, so that we would be able to, provide fuel.
What are we doing with the tank now?
It was we just had it here temporarily.
Say again, I didn't hear.
I believe this tank was just here temporarily to provide oil. We took the oil out of the old tank, put it in this until the new tank was in the ground and we moved it back in there.
But I think we're gonna
This is in line with gold.
So we rented the tank?
No, I think we purchased it though, but I'm not sure exactly where it's coming from. But I'll get that for you next time.
For next time. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend payment in the amount of $1,690 to WPS Consulting Engineers for professional services for the middle school project to replace the oil tank SED number as shown. Any motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. In favor?
How did that differ from 19?
I'm sorry, I'll go.
How does 18 and 19, why are they separate?
I think because they submitted two separate bills.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend payment in the amount of $11,238.50 to WPS Consulting Engineers for professional services for the middle school project to replace the oil tank SED number as shown.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend payment in the amount of $67,888.83 to D&M Petroleum Incorporated for materials and supplies to install a 10,000-gallon oil tank in the middle school project. SED number is shown.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Is this tank going back in the ground?
It is.
It is.
It's a double bolt.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
My only question, I'm nobody desire for it. My only question is, what are these guys, if 20 is doing all the work putting the thing in the ground, what are we getting for $13,000 from those other guys, 18 and 19?
That's the engineering and consulting and monitoring. The soil had to be tested, it had to be hauled away. I don't want to get into all, but that's really.
That's under that?
Yep.
Okay, let's do that vote again if we could, please, since
Which one?
There's no one.
20, we,
I have a first by Ms. Marnes and a second by Mr. LeCount.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend payment in the amount of $4,309.40 to Brockway Mechanic Systems Incorporated for labor and materials pertaining to the middle school project. SED number is shown.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? You sure of that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend payment in the amount of $61,995 to Collins and Scoville Architects PC for professional services from February 1st to the 28th, 2007, project 06064-01. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Let's move into the informational part of our meeting. CAP report, sir.
Okay, you asked me to look into the CAP courses, and I did call Willow Nolan and talk to her because it seems that the criteria has changed. I've also talked to Chris about it, but basically, according to what Willow told me, is that she has recently become the administrator of this program, and before, I guess there wasn't that much scrutiny as far as the instructors and the program, the courses that they were taking. And she has been able to work with her college instructors, and they formed committees, like for instance the English department, and then they start to, I guess they're really reviewing all the programs that the different schools are doing, with the fact that they're looking for an accreditation. They want to get accreditation, and this will approve the transferability of the courses that are taken under the CAP program. So I guess the process is one of adjustment, and they're becoming more stringent on what they're doing. I know that CV Tech is also working with them in order to get the courses approved for the aeronautics program. And I guess that's one of the questions that we need to answer to the CV Tech is, are we going to accept the CAP, or are we in favor of CAP courses for that? So, but that's where we are right now. I think the teachers that have applied have been accepted. There was a little difficulty, but I guess that difficulty was resolved. But I don't know if it's going to be lasting, Christine, or if it's going to change next year. But I know that they're getting a little bit more, I guess, critical of the programs and the courses that are being offered. That's what Willow told me when she's in charge of the program.
Okay. We're going to need a special meeting on April 26, 2007 to vote on the CVES board members.
What
Is there a
time?
time that's convenient for everyone?
6 a.m.? Yeah, let's show her tough, 6 a.m.
Silver.
I hope you guys have a good time.
I believe there's 6 people running for 5 seats.
I think you agreed last time that it would be a meeting, right? Anytime that we have a meeting. So.
Is this just for that one thing?
Right.
These guys will find other things for us to do.
Okay.
So are we looking at 6:30 on Friday?
In the morning or at night?